gentlemen, welcome back. Episode 36 of the 9 to 5 Fitness Podcast. Probably our biggest one yet, Gab. I'm really excited. How are you and how'd you sleep?
It definitely is our biggest one so far, but mate, they've thrown a spanner in the works. We've had an earthquake this morning. Can you believe it? Out of all things.
I know. We're in Melbourne. It's going to shit, to be honest. Yeah, we're going down.
The show must go on. We've got Fraser Wilson on the podcast. I'm good. I slept really well. Got to have a good sleep for this one. How did you sleep and how are you?
I'm good. How'd you sleep? Fraser, how are you and how did you sleep?
I'm doing pretty phenomenally and I slept pretty good. Got the full 8 hours in. So it's a rarity these days, but really enjoyed it.
Very nice. And is sleep something that you emphasize for yourself? We know it plays a hugely important role in like your mood, mental health, physical health. Is it something you take pretty seriously?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say it is something that at times I can definitely sacrifice for working harder or working longer. But I think at the end of the day, there's definitely there's definitely the amount that you sleep is going to lead to you performing better, whether that be in work or whether that be in the gym. And so there comes to a point where it's like, it's a complete degradation of your efficacy pretty much. So like anything under 6 hours for me, I'm just like, I'm a zombie walking around. So 6 to 8 hours for me is pretty damn prime. But I think for every individual, it's going to be different. For yourself, you might run off 8 hours and need 8 hours. But yeah, I work pretty well with 6 to 8.
100%. And the thing I've noticed is there's a difference between the time you spend in bed and the time you're actually sleeping. I've been using this app called Sleep Cycle and it absolutely pulls you apart with things like that. It's like, yeah, I've allocated the 8 hours, but you've actually only got 6.5 hours time of sleep. So it kind of exposes you like that, which is pretty annoying.
And I think, you know, for new listeners, we do ask this question every episode. And the reason we do that is to emphasize how important sleep is. We're 36 episodes in and we've done it 36 times.
Every single time, mate.
And it's pretty important, isn't it?
It is. And so we'll give a bit of an introduction to Fraser. If you somehow know who we do and you don't know who Fraser is, you're living under some kind of weird rock. I'm not too sure. Fraser, we think he's the biggest male fitness creator in Australia. He's been a huge inspiration to so many. He's kind of one of the OG pioneers of kind of fitness and social media. Fraser, mate, I think you should be pretty proud because we don't know who you were looking up to back then. There wasn't really, I don't think when you started, all these stars kind of on social media and people to look up to. You were one of the kind of pioneers and we're wondering, how did you start that journey?
Yeah, good question. I do appreciate the kind words. I think for me, like maybe from your perspective, like I was a bit of a pioneer, but I was looking at a lot of people who were like first entrants into pretty much social media fitness. So YouTube was absolutely massive. I think a few people that I started watching that really inspired me to take my fitness and health seriously were people like Matt Ogus, Christian Guzman, who have obviously, Christian's gone on to do absolutely amazing things in business. But yeah, that was like what kickstarted my interest in fitness into gear. But it came later down the road when I like fell absolutely in love with it. And I realized like, all right, this is extremely helpful and can be helpful to so many people dealing with just anything, going through the quabbles of life. So mental health issues or just improving their work balance. If they can work on their fitness, everything else in their life is benefited. So I realized that taking a step back, I go, all right, I want to inspire people to take that seriously because it is going to improve their life as a whole. And I really, really appreciate the kind words saying that I've had a big impact on that because that was the goal in the outset and it's still the goal today.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think you've really addressed a huge gap in the market because we know that in America and Europe, there are so many kind of fitness influencers. It's almost saturated. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just a whole lot more common. Whereas in Australia, I think you'd know, there actually aren't that many. When I think of our biggest Australian fitness creator inspirations, there's Fraser Wilson, Zach Perner, Callum Von Moger. I think that's all that comes to mind. So there really aren't that many. So you were kind of like a role model for where we want to be. And I think that's a great point that you mentioned, like helping people through like their physical and mental health journeys. When you get, I'm sure you'd get 1,000 times more than us, but the messages you get of people sending you absolute love, being like, you really inspired me or motivated or helped me make a positive change.
100%. And I think also for us, like Gab and I have been lucky enough to kind of come into this together. And of course, being in Australia, there's kind of that tall poppy syndrome, which doesn't seem to be as much in America. So I have so much respect for anyone who can step in front of the camera by themselves and on their own. Did you ever find it a little bit difficult, especially at the start, to kind of get into it on your own?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say when I started off, if you go look back at my old like first day YouTube videos, it's just like an awkward mess. And it's going to be like that. I think the biggest thing that I could tell people who want to endeavor into anything where you're putting yourself out into a place to be judged and criticized is that you're probably going to get criticized and judged because you're not going to be very good. You're just starting out. You need to make that first step into getting much better at it. But the fear is definitely there. Fear of criticism from peers, from everyone else. Like you said, Australia is an extremely tall poppy society. Like we look at people doing well and we go, well, don't do that. Come back here.
Tear them down.
Which is not fair, but I suppose it's just the way that it is. And I think something that's incredible right now and that can kind of eliminate that is because we live in a worldwide system. So like we can reach people in America, we can reach people in the UK. So there's going to be people out there that will take what you're putting out and go, this is awesome. This is great. I love this. It's helping me. But if you stick in the four walls of your own country, it becomes a little bit harder, I feel.
I think that's a great point that you mentioned because our audience is heavily concentrated in Australia. We do a lot of AFL content, a lot of Australian colloquial specific kind of the terms we throw around. And I think like you and those OG creators, you have reached that worldwide audience. And I think number one, that's key to growth. But number two, that's also key to overcoming a lot of the kind of internal Australian judgment. Like in Australia, if you take your shirt off, you're a flog. Whereas if you do it in America, you're a bloody legend. Like that's just how it works. And now we'll get back to more of the growth and the social media side of things, but we want to concentrate on you and almost give a biography to who you are. So first of all, when you started out in school, how were you? Give us a bit of a rundown on that.
School. Yeah, I'd say I'll start at high school. I was a bit of a scallywag, to be honest. Definitely very, very energetic. Like I'd be the kid talking in class and causing havoc with teachers and whatnot. It was like a love-hate relationship. They liked me because I'd talk a lot and potentially entertain the class, but then they hate me because I disrupt everyone. So, went through there. I did pretty well with studies and whatnot up until I'd say senior school when kind of it took a bit of a back front just because I fell in love with other things and I didn't really feel too much drive towards it. So I was just averaging pretty standard grades. But overall, I'd say I was a very outgoing, energetic, probably a bit of a problematic kid at school. That's probably the best way to sum it up.
And so did you kind of start, when you say you fell in love with other things, did you kind of start your fitness content creation then? Is that what you're talking about?
I definitely started, so I started training at the gym in year 10. And from there fell absolutely in love with it. Like it took up the forefront of my whole mentality. I was just like, I'm just going to school. I'm really excited to finish so I can go home and train and eat and cook up and do all this kind of stuff. And it was always in the back of my mind doing that. But it wasn't until about year 12, maybe the end of it, where I really started to take a dive into it, which is probably the worst time considering final exams. Yeah. But I'd say really just the idea that, all right, I know what I want to do, but I feel like school's not going to get me there, but I kind of have to do it. So I just had to do it. It was in that kind of mindset.
Yeah, prerequisite. So you said you started training in year 10. Did you get into the gym because you wanted to be better at something else? Like were you playing soccer or footy that kind of put you in the gym, or was it just because you wanted to build size?
Yeah, it was a good question. So I played basketball all the way through when I was about 6 up until about 14. Pretty high level, just like 6 days a week or something like that. So I eventually stopped playing that, and then it kind of left a gigantic like pit of non-exercise. Like I didn't go back to footy, I didn't go back to playing tennis or anything like that. I just had a couple years of like not doing any exercise, and I realized that it was like kind of messing with me a lot because it was something I thoroughly enjoyed. And then a friend of mine at school invited me to the morning gym session. There was like, I'm sure maybe at where you guys went, there's a morning gym class you can go to where the gym's open for like an hour. Yeah. So I went there, and like the first day I was in there, I was just like, this is incredible. this is amazing. And it was something that like gives you a very, very clear pathway of like progression. So I didn't really get into it to benefit other sports. I got into it because I didn't have any other sports at the time.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it because of that.
And so was that morning gym class, was that at school or like at a local gym or?
Yeah, so that was at school.
Oh, cool. And if we're not mistaken, you went to Wesley as well, right?
Correct, yes.
Fantastic.
Couple of Wesley boys here.
Right.
That gym has produced a couple of legends. Fraser being one. Nick Lavery, another one. He just rode in the
Sorry, was it
Olympics.
St Kilda Road or Glen Waverley?
Oh, yeah, true. Different
Could be a different one.
Different campus, maybe. I'm talking St Kilda
Same
Road.
kettle of fish, though.
Yeah. It's that old kettle of fish. But no, so we did go to the same school, all of us. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, I think that's really common is exiting kind of a sport and realizing that the gym, you can actually do that on its own.
Yeah,
Like,
mine was kind of soccer. I just stopped essentially early retirement from soccer because I fell in love with kind of lifting weights and getting big.
yeah, you don't actually have to go to the gym to better a sport. A lot of people are so one-dimensional about it. I see people like, if you want to play footy, then you have to train like an athlete. It's like, no, well, you can train like a bodybuilder and an athlete. That's all right. You do you, mate. But yeah, it's a crazy time.
And so you say that you knew that school wasn't going to take you to where your goals were, but were there any kind of considerations? Like obviously year 12, you're starting to get into uni. Like, did you start a uni course or anything like that?
No, so I came very close, but I decided not to take the leap just based on HEX debt. So I did take like a year to kind of think about it. I was working while I was doing that, but decided like at some point I was like, well, this isn't going to kickstart it into gear on its own. I've got to really, really kick it into gear if I want to maximize the time while I'm young and get things rolling. And so like towards the end of that 1 year, I just went, screw it. I'm going like 100%. So like put pretty much all my effort into it. And that's when things started to pick up. And I really, really enjoyed it. That was like the best thing about it. It didn't even matter if there was any kind of reward in the start because it's very slow. It was more like I really enjoyed doing it and the whole process of creating videos, putting out content. If I connected with one person, like that was like the best feeling in the world. And it just carried on. It was like, all right, I put out something, it impacted someone, that was phenomenal. Got a good response, and then it kind of snowballed and it made me want to do it more and more.
That's awesome. And so in terms of like, did you consider any other potential career paths, or was it always very, this is it or nothing kind of thing?
Yeah, I think at that point it was all or nothing, but I definitely like considered prior career paths, but I feel like they're all grounded in money. I feel like before it was like, oh, I'll go become an accountant because they make some good money, or I'll go become a financial advisor because they'll make some good money, or dentist looks good, but like no real passion behind it. And until I like dialed that in, that's when I started to have a great time. And the vision was painted at that point. It was something that I wanted to go towards instead of something that, I feel like there'd be some sort of reward at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I feel like that's when people kind of turn into greatness, is when they just commit fully.
Yeah,
with most things. So with your training and kind of like your content creation, was it the second you got into the gym in year 10, you were recording yourself and like creating content on it, or was it throughout school, or did it pick up after school?
Yeah, definitely picked up after school. I think school was a big like waiting time for me to get into it. It was like I always wanted to pull the trigger, but I never felt ready. And then, as I said, the year after school is when I really kicked things into gear. It's really tough, man. I don't know if you guys started while you were in school, but that would be a very, very tough thing to do.
That would be ballsy.
I pretty much started after year 12, I think.
Yeah, so. No, I wasn't about to pull out a camera and start vlogging in school.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
for sure.
In terms of the recording. Yeah, no, that was, mate, we were the most nervous wreck. Like even when we did start, probably like 3 years into uni, we were nervous getting a camera out. Oh, let me take a Snapchat of Louis.
I still get nervous.
Mate, put the camera away. Get
it away. But you'd have to have some balls to pull it out to start recording in school. So was your first kind of like job and stuff, was that just purely kind of content, or as in not necessarily career? Were you working part-time jobs and that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, I was working full-time for a little bit for the first like 6 months of the year. And then transitioned into part-time because I wanted to put more effort into what I was trying to do. Random jobs, man. I was a basketball ref for so long, since I was like 7. So I did that up until I was like probably 18, 19. and then got a full-time job straight after school.
Yeah, and we touched on inspirations before. I know, like, definitely you're one of ours, and that's why we're a little bit starstruck. But for yourself, kind of going through school and stuff, did you have kind of any idols, bodybuilders, or whatever basketball players that you were trying to kind of idolize?
Yeah, bunch of YouTubers, I'd say. I wouldn't. It's hard to say idolize or anything like that because I feel like everyone's super, super different. But definitely like some big inspirations, as I said, like Christian Guzman, Matt Ogus. Yeah, probably the two like big standouts for me, I'd say, that really like kicked me into gear and were like, wow, this is pretty sick. These guys just like decided to create something from nothing, and they're very inspiring, and they got me into the gym as well. So I was like, I want to do the same thing and give back to other people. But external from that, man, basketball players like Kobe Bryant, incredible. That's probably about it. Yeah, because I stopped playing basketball quite young. Kind of took less of an interest into it.
And so leading on from your inspirations of the YouTubers and everything, so we want to talk about kind of the rise of Fraser Wilson, and when you really did start. Was it kind of after year 12? Like, was that when your lifting journey started, or did you start lifting a few years in school? And like, walk us through essentially when you started making the gains versus when the recording happened.
Yeah, so I started it was actually year 11, sorry. I said year 10 before. It was year 11 when a friend of mine invited me to the school gym. That's when I started training. I had a brilliant time at it. But I'd say the first couple of years were definitely like spent, not in a very, very productive way, like made very minimal gains. I think everyone has to go through this process of a bit of trial and error. You got to put on too much weight. You got to realize, oh, that was a bit silly. Or you'll be drinking throughout it. I think we'll jump onto that a bit later. Like alcohol every single weekend while you're in year 12 or year 11. Not a very conducive environment for making gains. So yeah, I'd say up until that 1 year removed from school is when I really started to turn it on. Started content at the end of the year, but that whole year was just like 100% dedicated. Cut out drinking, cut out all this, just so I could focus on it and make some very, very steady progress.
And you talk about that phase, the trial and error stage. Ours was like, I remember that. There was some of the good old days where we just lift every weight in sight and we thought more is more kind of thing.
You were keto. You weren't eating carbs for a bit there. It was crazy. It was wild times. It was the Wild West. We did pull-ups for a whole year.
I remember when we first discovered creatine and amino acids and we're like, mate, look at this holy juice right here. I'm like, mate, put that away. Don't show that in front of mum.
Yeah. So did you like really dial in your eating in that kind of second year period? Like, were you really focusing on kind of your meal prep and that sort of thing, and then that's where the gains came?
100%. Yeah, I think nutrition plays such a large role in it. Mainly like eating more, honestly, because that's what a big part of it comes into. Just getting in like good adequate amount of nutrients, but then making sure it's enough to fuel you and sustain you for a long period of time so you can make some steady gains. And that's probably the biggest downfall of people that when they start out. And me personally, I was on, like you said you did keto before. I did intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Like very fresh about it. I still do it now, but in a more, in a better approached way. But when I was doing it then, I wouldn't eat up until lunch. This was during high school. So I wouldn't eat up until lunch. Yeah. And then I would have like a bag of carrots, celery, and like an apple because I'm like, it's healthy. And so realistically, over the course of the day, I'm getting in like 1,000 calories. I'm still working out, playing basketball, doing all these activities, and I'm just withering away. I got down to about 54 kilograms, which is incredibly light. Like I think I started at like 60, 66 or something.
Yeah.
Decent amount of fat and some muscle, but like then dropped down so damn light because there's just like this, unfortunately you can get onto some weird things when you start out. So it's very important to filter through all that randomness and make sure you're doing the right thing in the get-go.
Yeah, it sounded like you were missing out on some pretty essential macronutrients there, being protein. But I kind of experienced the same thing where you're almost starving yourself and then your body has this amazing response to when you give it the right nutrients. It's almost like you're holding back the angry wolves or something and then they're ready to unleash. It's like your body was doing that when you start tracking your macros, going on a lean bulk kind of, I presume you're around the 3,000 calorie mark, and then your body just has this astonishing response to it.
I think like the biggest one for me personally was changing from watching like one YouTuber workout and like doing that kind of like once a week and like not repeating it to actually following like a structured program. That was huge for me personally, and also eating well. It's pretty important. So platforms, we've got TikTok, we've got Instagram, and we've kind of just started out there, and it's been incredible. When you first started, TikTok wasn't around. What was kind of your main go-to platform?
Yeah, YouTube was, I'd say definitely starting off in Instagram. That was like the first one because it's like the easiest barrier for entry. Just photo, put it up, caption. YouTube came a little bit later. And then I kind of grew those simultaneously for a couple of years, honestly. Like not too much growth in the first maybe 1 to 2. I say that, but still people might think it's a lot of growth. And then eventually just got to a point where like almost hit a catalyst, and then it just like went from here to straight up here. So 2 years of work, and then for the next couple of years it was like exponential growth. So those two things grew at the same time. I'd say like Instagram still now it's pretty good, but back then I'd say like engagement wise was probably close to TikTok levels. Yeah, like you could put out a video with like 1,000 followers and it get 200 to 300,000 views. So I'd say similar to TikTok at the moment.
And that thing we call like organic exposure, like as a social media platform kind of matures, they seem to offer less of this organic exposure. TikTok is still in its kind of birth stage. It's still growing, and it's offering these people with 1,000 followers a lot of organic exposure, whereas Instagram, you're kind of seeing that with the reels, although it's a lot more difficult than TikTok. I think it definitely helps if you've got a good following already, but we're kind of YouTube and Instagram offering those huge, obviously there were less fitness creators and it was less saturated, but were they offering quite considerable organic exposure?
Yeah, I'd say so, but in that same coin, like you said, the market was saturated. Like every Dick, Tom and Jerry was on there posting content. So it was hard. It was like there was a giant sea, but there was still like a really good engagement. I suppose like the ad platform hadn't come in, taken a bit of organic growth. It was a bit of a different time. I'd say TikTok is probably a bit of the same, but less people posting on TikTok. I think it's more about consumption over there. Like there's definitely more viewers rather than content creators.
Oh, okay.
Like it's got to be at least like 10 to 1 or something like that.
And you spoke about this kind of catalyst of where you experienced some sort of growth and then it was exponential. Are you able to indicate at all or point your finger on what that catalyst was?
Yeah, I'd say consistent workouts are being put out on both platforms. So consistent workouts in the sense of people love simplicity and consistency. So it was like, here's a workout for you to try. And people, I think a lot of people when they first get into it, they don't know what to do, to be honest. They really just don't. So going into the gym, like for me personally, I would just train arms all the time. I'd do bicep exercise after bicep exercise. Even if it was at the end of the leg day, I'd do some biceps. So I think giving anyone any form of structure is better than no structure. And a lot of people entering the gym are just going, well, what the hell do I do? What the hell do I do? So here's a workout for you to try out. Hope you enjoy it. And then to an extent, the idea is for that to send them in a direction where they eventually get very, very good structure so they can make long-term progress instead of it just being like, here's a workout to try. It's more about getting them in the door. So once they're in the door, then they have the potential to develop that solid structure to get the good results that they're looking after.
Yeah, a bit of consistency. And I think the videos that you put out, one, they're consistent. Two, they're really aesthetic. Like you see them reposted everywhere. And I think like you're kind of the king of those aesthetic, like really simple, kind of creative as well. Like we've seen some creative exercises in there, just like nice music, super simple. I think that's a tip maybe we could use as well, mate. Getting some more out there.
Start implementing or just bite all of your content, mate. So starting out on YouTube, like we kind of talked about it earlier, the confidence behind posting and being on your own. Was there any kind of, I don't know, did you want to stop doing it at any point, or were you kind of given much shit for doing it?
I don't think I wanted to stop at any point. I really took like a good amount of time to like cut out a lot of noise in a sense. Like I wasn't reaching out and being like, hey, I'm starting this YouTube channel, or hey, I'm doing this. It was very much on like the private. And people found out obviously eventually, but it was more so like, well, I'm not going to listen to it because I'm just having a great time. It would be like, if you're doing something that's having fun and the aim is to help other people, no matter what negative criticism comes your way, you go, well, I'm doing the right thing. I'm having a good time. If you're hating on me for doing that, then that's your problem. So no, I don't think there was any time where I wanted to stop because I just love doing it. It's like, why would you stop? So yeah, but it is tough, man. I feel like, especially with you guys have a very, very large Australian audience. And I'm not sure what your approach was to get things rolling, but maybe you went out and like put yourselves fully out there. How did you guys find that? What was your approach with getting things rolling?
Yeah, it was a bit of a funny one, I think. We kind of started out on Instagram, and I was pretty nervous to be like, me personally. I was shit and bricks, and I was really worried about what everyone thought. But we were pretty vocal about it, sent it, didn't we?
Yeah, well,
friends and family.
Like at the start, it was mainly friends and family following us, a few other followers and whatnot. But we were like almost didn't want to put our faces in it. We didn't want to put our faces in it. Like we were very much, this is about the brand. It's not about us. We don't want to. And then it just, it eventually happened.
Build confidence. I think the biggest one, like on that Australian thing, is if we post footy content, like the views and the kind of the results it gets are really good, but also the hate comments that come with that they're personal and they attack you. Like the second we mention anything about footy, you just can't do it in Australia. And like we still do it and it's a good laugh, but it's pretty interesting, isn't it? Because like we had a few kind of 700,000 viewed videos, and like you don't get that many followers from footy ones. Whereas if you do it in food and lifting,
something
you get
helpful.
Yeah, something helpful, then you get heaps of followers from it.
Right. Yeah. So just footy, you kicking around the footy or something. People are like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Because like I'm more of like an unco power lifter, and like my ball drop is not going to get me into the AFL, and everyone's like giving me like not even constructive tips. They're like, bro, that is the most abysmal ball drop ever. Like you're embarrassing. That was painful to watch. It's like, holy shit.
It's pretty painful, but it's worthwhile, I think. But did you ever get much hate like that?
No, I'd say a lot of the time it's been pretty positive, which is honestly a little surprising considering I'd like set myself up expecting a lot of hate to come my way. In the sense of just like you put yourself out there, eventually someone's going to come over and call you a C word or anything like this. So there's definitely some hate that comes my way. A lot of it's normally from accounts with no display picture and 0 followers. So I usually just block it out. Yeah, that's about it, man. Kept it pretty positive, to be honest. I feel like my content's pretty positive. I'm not trying to hurt anyone or do anything super controversial. So
yeah.
So a big one about getting a bit of a following, having an audience, is you get kind of sponsorship offers. I'm not sure what the threshold is, but once you do have people that listen to what you say and you can influence people, you do start getting some pretty cool offers. We wanted to have a chat to you about, obviously, you're sponsored by Gymshark, doing some awesome collaborations and getting ridiculous opportunities through them. Do you want to talk us through when you started kind of getting those offers come your way?
Yeah, I'd say it was quite a while, to be honest. Like I got the random offhand offer of some random t-shirt company, or the weirdest one that I got was like a lighter. Like someone was like, can I send you a free lighter? I'm like, you're missing the content. But no, down the line, I think like maybe a year and a bit in, I got my first like, I suppose, notable sponsorship offer, and that was a supplement sponsor, One Up, which is an American supplement company. Started working with them. That was pretty damn great. I think when I started working with them, I had like 70,000-ish followers.
Awesome.
And again, like I've never really tried or reached out to companies in order to get sponsored. I focus on like the things that I can control in a sense. Obviously, I can send them out an email and might roll things along, but I'd rather get to a spot where like if you build it, they'll come in a sense. So that was my approach with that. And then down the line, a couple of years forward, did a couple clothing sponsorships with Ape Athletics, which I'm not too sure is still selling shirts. They might be. And then maybe 6 months after that, Gymshark reached out to me, just an email. Similar to the classic story, like they reach out, I'm like, I'll have to check the URL, make sure it's an actual thing. I'm like, this is interesting. And I was just heading over to Africa at this time. They sent it to me while I was in the airport. I was traveling with my girlfriend, and I was like, well, I can't take a phone call while I'm over there in Africa. So this is going to be unfortunate. I'm going to be like, can you hold on for like 2 weeks while I travel and we'll talk when we get back. And they were very, very nice about that. But that got the things rolling. And honestly, it's possibly been one of the best setups that I could have imagined. Like they go above and beyond to take care of you guys. Extremely nice people, extremely good team that they have in Australia. They're expanding quite extensively. America as well. Their clothes are just taking step up every single year, man. It's insane. Like surely they'd be rivaling likes of Nike or Adidas at some point. Like I don't think they've separated themselves from the classic athleisure wear or the fitness industry.
Definitely.
And just gone into a whole different realm. So it's amazing what they've been doing.
I think it's a pretty cool brand to be associated with. I don't think our sponsorship's quite on the level that yours is, but even for them just sending us down some clothes, like it's pretty sick for us even to be affiliated with that brand, because I feel like it's only the really cool creators. It's like a club. It's like, I'm over the moon with it. And yeah, I got the clothes yesterday. Yours is still in the mail.
Mine are coming.
But
you find a level of motivation when you get a sponsorship like that. How long have you been with Gymshark for? Because you were from right from the start.
Little over 2 years now. 2 years since 2019. So we signed in June. We were like starting to talk at the start of the year. Then June officially started. So yeah, it's been over 2 years, and I'd say like I can't complain, man. There's literally no complaints about it. So yeah, I'm excited to keep it up with them, and obviously once things open up, probably like the one unfortunate thing I suppose about it was in signing, and then 6 months later we go into an 18-month lockdown pretty much. Yeah. So traveling wise, hopefully by the end of the year I might be able to get over there or to America. But yeah, besides that, it's been pretty phenomenal.
And you've also got EHP Labs as well, where our kind of sups retailer, we just can get all EHP Labs stuff. I think there's some of the best sups out there.
Yeah, we love them.
Do you want to talk us through that one?
Yeah, EHP, pretty standard, man. Like they got some phenomenal products. They're Australian based. Obviously they've taken it worldwide. They're selling a lot in America. But overall, man, their products are pretty damn insane. Like their flagship product is OxyShred, which is possibly like the best fat burner energy complex supplement out there on the market, I'd say. And I can't even like begin to tell you how many people have tried it and been like, I love it. Like it's amazing. So they have it in the morning instead of coffee or this or that. But besides that, yeah, EHP, pretty standard. Like I said, I was working with another supplement company in America. I felt like I'd want to have a more personal involvement. Considering getting over to America every now and then is not too feasible. So I really enjoyed that they're an Australian-based company. Their headquarters are in Sydney. No complaints about them, to be honest.
Had COVID not happened, do you think you would be in America by now? Or like, would you be doing trips to America or be more situated there?
Yeah, definitely doing more trips. I don't think I'd ever want to live in America, to be honest. I just really like Australia. I like our more relaxed, laid back vibe. I'd say the pros would have to heavily outweigh the cons of moving to America. And I just don't think they would, to be honest. So I'd definitely do like trips over there for content purposes. Go state to state, see people that are there in order to create content and do all that kind of stuff. But living there, I don't think I'd really enjoy it. How about you guys?
Oh, don't think we could live there. We got a message, early days of 9 to 5 from like the Nelk boys, and we like uploaded an Instagram of us and we just like tagged the location as being in LA, and we got a message from the Nelk boys being like, oh, do you guys want to come for a photo shoot tomorrow? And I reckon if COVID wasn't a thing, we would have been on that plane, but we were locked down, so we couldn't do anything. So definitely trips. I personally couldn't live there.
It just sucks. Like, honestly, I feel like LA is kind of the haven for all the fitness social media opportunity. It's like we talk about fitness creator saturation, and that's kind of the hub there. Like every second person's going to be a fitness creator. Yeah. But like it'd be awesome just to go to LA, soak up those vibes and create some content, collab with other people.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of like so you were with Gymshark for 6 months before COVID and obviously EHP Labs as well. What kind of opportunities have you had through that kind of travel wise? Have you done many like kind of booths at expos and stuff? And what's that like?
Yeah, none yet. So I got with EHP start of 2020, literally January 1st. So obviously there was plans for it. The Melbourne Fitness Exhibition didn't happen, got cancelled because of COVID. Gymshark, that was all in the works for 2020, I suppose. So those 6 months, I got over to Sydney just in preparation to meet the team, do all this. But besides that, I've gone over to Sydney again this year when we had the little period that we could travel. But unfortunately, that just not happened, unfortunately, because of COVID. But yeah, you gotta count your blessings, I suppose. You can't be too mad about that.
Yeah, it'll be huge when it does come back as well.
Yeah, I'd be keen to do a bunch of travel. It's kind of...
We've got things planned.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a bloody world trip, so stand back. Yeah. Now, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to talk about like when you do have a bit of a following, particularly in Australia, like getting recognised in public. We presume you get recognised a whole lot more than us, but it's kind of cool to deal with. It's like, bro, why are you like coming up to me? Like when we first started out.
It wigs me out.
How do you kind of respond to that, and how do you feel about it or getting used to it?
I'm pretty chill with it now. I think the first time it happened, so it's already happened to you guys.
Yeah, a couple of times.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, the first time it happened, I was just like, what? I was almost surprised. Like, he's like, are you? I'm like, what? This is crazy. And then kept happening like a bunch. And I don't like, I find it pretty damn awesome, to be honest. It all depends on how they act. Yeah. Like some could be obnoxious or this or that, but a lot of the time people are amazing. I love people who just come up and say g'day and if they just say like, I love your work or this or that, or can I take a photo? That's awesome. It's always tough though. Like you don't want to get stuck in like a 15-minute conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if you're with someone else, that's tough. But yeah, no complaints, man. I haven't had any like sour altercations. I think it's phenomenal. It's something that shouldn't be taken for granted, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool feeling. It's good that you haven't had any bad ones. I think it kind of started happening probably a year ago for us when we were popping up on every Australian male's For You page. And they're like, oh, you're those guys. Like when we go down Chapel Street, it's just like, it's pretty funny, especially if you're with other people.
It's good fun, yeah.
I don't think we've had any bad ones. Like I don't know, people like shout, those ones were like, they were walking down the street 100 meters away. They go like, you're on steroids, by the way. And
yeah, like we walked past them, but yeah, it wasn't too bad. But it's pretty amazing and it's eye-opening as well. It's like, oh mate.
And I think that kind of leads us into like dividing your personal life from your fitness/social media life. How do you find that?
Yeah, I'd feel like I've approached it pretty well. In the beginning, I think I was like 100% like pretty much working like 14-hour days, like just putting 100% of my effort in. But now I've definitely like been able to take a step back and kind of separate the two, realizing that 100% one way or 100% the other way is just not good. You need to find that healthy balance, and the balance is going to be different for everyone. But I usually keep my personal life like pretty much exclusively away from my my fitness content and my social medias, just because I treat it more as like a business where I'm trying to grow and help people, and then my personal life, unless they want to be involved, unless they're really trying to take that on, I don't really want to involve them in a sense, just because it can be quite annoying. I've had people like reaching out to my girlfriend like kind of in a rude way, so it's like it's not fun. It's not fun for that to happen. Like, especially if it's like something I'm deciding to do and I'm putting them in coop with that. It's just not. It's not ideal. So I like to keep things pretty separate.
I think like the most difficult from my perspective is having. So I've got two accounts. I've got a personal account, like which is me, and then we've got the 9-to-5 account. And because we get so many DMs on the 9-to-5 account asking for tips and help and stuff, we can't reply to all of them, or it takes us a fair while to reply to them. So that means they trickle over into the personal account. And I've found if I don't reply to people in the personal account, they start like abusing me. Like, mate, you've got like 3,000 followers. Like, settle down. Like, you're not bloody Fraser Wilson. And so then I was like, no. The thing is, I don't want to reply. Like, I'll do that in business time. Like, right now, it's difficult.
It's kind of like a weird spillover. And that is, I think, Fraser, it looks like you've got it under amazing control, because I've noticed like you upload all your content at one time. That's kind of done for the day. I think that's a really good way. Like, we'll get into kind of the way you deal with that and kind of distancing yourself from always being on your phone and whatnot. But I think you've got it under really good control. But it could be worth looking into kind of separating your business life from your personal life. And obviously it's hard to do when you're in this growth and early stage, but I think it's definitely something to strive for.
Well, the second you start posting content, you kind of become like you don't want the people to kind of own you. And I've found that like there's almost an element of like entitlement. Yeah. To like your time and fair enough too, if you're posting content, but yeah, like dividing that has been something we've had to learn. And, you know, it's kind of, we're just building up now. We've just got our Gymshark sponsorship or whatever you want to call it. And we're building into those bigger numbers, and kind of having a good strategy is pretty important.
And do you have any tips for that, Fraser?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good idea. So I like to approach it in the sense like you said. So I figured that out in Africa. So I'm back in Africa, but I figured it out because pretty much I had no internet. Like I couldn't post when I wanted to. And I realized that, all right, well, it's fine. I'll just post when I get back to the hotel or when I have Wi-Fi. And it got me into a mode of thinking like, all right, it's super good to separate it from everything. So if I do happen to take a photo, I'll just save it and I'll sort it out later and I'll put it up all as a bunch. If you're looking at it from engagement purposes, it also helps because people are more likely to view everything in a sense. But besides that, I'd say, yeah, just finding a way. I really like what you guys have done, having a personal account and then a business account. Something that I've definitely thought about, but also going like, oh, well, now I feel like I'm always doing social media anyway. So I feel like if I took it in a personal way, I'm going to be like, oh, now I'm just doing more work. But yeah, it's a good idea. Maybe if I want to get a dog, I'll get a dog Instagram. Yeah, that'll make you feel personal or something.
And I think it's a great thing you do with separating the kind of social media side of things and your life. You talked about your experience in Africa, and like it's just not living if you're on your phone the whole time, and it can get pretty difficult. I think a great example, another one like you, Fraser, is Noel Dazel or Noel Dazel. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but
big South African fella.
Yeah, he's absolutely blown up. I think he's probably one of the most relevant fitness creators in the world right now. Pretty inspiring, but that's a whole nother story. But he's got like an engineering firm, or a software firm that he runs. He doesn't even do social media full time, and he's just like does it on the side. So like he'll upload like a story a day, a reels a day, and a TikTok a day, and that's all he does. And like the reward he gets from it is astonishing. And so, yeah, pretty unreal.
It's nuts. I didn't realize he was also running a software company.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what a man. Very inspirational.
Got that side hustle. So like putting your phone down and stuff, I mean, we've noticed it. It's essential to us to actually have time, because at the start we were like you doing 14-hour days, and it's like even going to the gym was actually work. So then once we started putting our phone down, we noticed like bigger gains from that. But you're uploading kind of all at the same time.
Yeah, I'll usually I'll plan on my week of what I want to post content wise. If I haven't got it, I will film it in the sense of like I'm pretty well backed up with content, but stories, obviously I'll get them throughout the day, but it's more so like, all right, I'll get them. I'm not going to post them now because again, that's like a whole nother section of it. So my audience is American based primarily. So I'll usually post around them. That will be nighttime. And yeah, that's it, man. I'll reply to decent amount of comments in the first like 30 minutes and I'll just leave it, man. Like for someone who works in that industry, I'm usually on my phone a lot less than people that I see. It's it's a good thing to separate because, as you said, it is work, and going to the gym can feel like work, filming content and doing all this. So yeah, taking a step back from that in the times you can, instead of making a priority, you definitely can make that happen. I think a lot of people think they got to be glued to their phone. It's probably not conducive for long-term progress, is what I found.
That's awesome. And I think after this podcast, I'll definitely be taking a leaf out of your book, because I think that's something we're victim to, is being a slave to your phone. And
what about in terms of like, were you ever at a point where you were kind of governed, or like your mood was governed by how many likes or how many views you were getting? And if you were, how'd you manage that?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. I feel like not really. I'm pretty unemotionally attached to that kind of thing. I think you could get X amount of likes, but it's more about the impact, right? Because not to point any fingers, I'm not going to name any names, but like if a girl puts out a picture and it's literally just like a string and her body, her ass is out and whatnot, you get a ton of likes, but like that might feel good for her. But to me, I'm not measuring myself on that. I'm measuring myself on impact. So I more look at comments, I more look at engagement, DMs, people responding. That's the phenomenal thing. so yeah, it's hard, it's easy to get caught up in that. But I think for me, I separate myself emotionally from it. I go, all right, well, it is what it is. I can work on doing something else, which might make a better impact. But it's really just an action and a response. So you go action. All right, this got this. If I want to reach more people, or if I want to impact more people, then I got to switch it up, or I got to do something else, and really trial and error in a sense. So taking yourself out emotionally, making sure you're enjoying the process, and then focusing on what matters, I suppose, the reaction from the people. So depth instead of width. That's been a big thing for me.
That's awesome to think about. It's such a great perspective.
I'm just taking notes here.
Yeah, same.
Rewatch.
We wanted to get a bit into your training because obviously it's quite different to ours. Yours very footy/bodybuilder based. Mine more powerlifting based. Yours is very, I feel, bodybuilding, functional, and aesthetic type of training. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say there's been times where I've taken it more of a powerlifting approach. Definitely when I first started out in those first couple of years, I did, but didn't enjoy it nearly as much. And I felt like it didn't lead me to where I wanted to be in a sense. So still incorporate definitely like a strength and power aspect to my training, but it's geared towards, like you mentioned, more of bodybuilding style, building aesthetics rather than purely strength and power.
Fraser's got hops. I was watching your some of your content before. What's the highest you've jumped?
I've done a 40-inch at training day. They've got a vert measure. So it's not bad, man. I still can't dunk, unfortunately.
Oh, really? I'm looking to chase you down.
I've got no idea. Is 40-inch? That's good.
Yeah, that's big.
That's big?
That's good. Yeah. He's pretty much Nick Natanui.
Oh, wow.
So what kind of training do you do, like to create that? You know, are you doing a lot of plyometric work or, you know, something else?
Plyometric work. I still play basketball, obviously not right now because of lockdown, but I feel like a lot of jumping is technique based. Obviously, when I started training, just from a strength perspective, just getting stronger in the gym is going to lead to more power output to the floor as you jump. So that's been a big part. And yeah, I've got I'd say my calves come into it as well, man. We've got some strong calves, I feel. And that helps. But I don't do too many plyometric exercises anymore.
Yeah, I've found I started doing plyometrics kind of last year, and they're helpful. I reckon. Like it's pretty amazing the kind of response you can have from that in your body and just these little muscles.
And so you have had a pretty crazy physique transformation. Do you want to walk us through the kind of key catalysts for that transformation?
Yeah, key catalysts. I'd say first was trial and error, big amount of trial and error. Like I said, I got down to like 54 kilograms before I really started to make any progress. Skin and bone, just completely unenergized because I had no food in my system. And yeah, so I'd say the biggest catalyst was realizing to keep it simple, keep it quite simple. Like there's simple principles that you should be implementing, like eating in a controlled calorie surplus, making sure you're getting in an adequate amount of carbs, proteins, and fats, training consistently, setting a structure in place so that you can make progress over, you know, a long period of time instead of just like that 1 week. That was a big part for me. And then just slowly incrementing up, knowing that it's about patience. It's about doing the work day by day, week by week, and eventually you'll get there. It's hard though, because I think patience is probably the biggest thing. Like it's very slow unless you want to jump on some sort of enhancements that will speed the process up. But otherwise it's going to be a long journey to make some radical changes in your body. But in saying that, people that are starting out, they can make a ton of progress in that first 16 weeks, ton of progress if they do it right. And that's the problem, because like 90% of people aren't going to do it right because they're just getting in. They don't know what to do. They're not eating adequate enough. They haven't built up the foundations. But if they do it right, you can make tons and tons of progress.
I think you've absolutely nailed those catalysts there. You have this trial and error period where you figure out that you need to be consistent with a marginal caloric surplus, kind of 5 to 15%, I think, and then progressive overload in the gym, like having a science-backed training regime.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I feel like it's so exciting when you get friends into the gym and you've got that first 16 weeks. If you can just get them hooked in the first kind of month, then you watch them fly. But it's trying to get that hooked. And I know we've had trouble getting some friends hooked and they end up not, continuing through the gym. But the ones who do get hooked, it's exciting to watch.
Yeah. Now we know music plays a big part in the gym. I've seen on your stories that you are a big rap fan, as am I. What's the kind of music you go to for the gym, and what kind of role does it play in your workouts? Yeah. Yeah, I'm more like Skepta, Playboy Cardi, like
Oh, walking into the gym when Gab is training is it's an
bit of
assault on your ears.
6ix9ine.
Oh, it's horrible.
Young Thug.
It's dreadful.
Yeah.
You'd love it, Fraser. Yeah. I feel like
Playboy Cardi needs to grow on you. You hate it.
I named
at
my
first.
dog
You're
Cardi.
just like, oh, did ya?
Yeah, I just got him. His name's Cardi.
he's
Soon I'm
addicted.
gonna have a birthmark on my face here, just growing.
We've got Gab bought a post at some terrifying looking
Slow
bloke.
Tie. Do you know Slow Tie?
He's terrifying.
Slow
looking.
tie.
Yeah, you're not
Yeah,
missing
he's
out.
a British artist. He's pretty full on. He's
Yeah.
good as pretty aggressive.
No.
I reckon you would have heard some of his music. It's pretty. Yeah, it's good.
Dreadful. So music, 5% enhancement in the gym. What about supplements and stuff? Do you take creatine, or have you kind of utilized supplements to help your training? And what do you find works best?
Yeah, well, creatine for sure. Like it's just very, very cost effective. There's really no reason why people shouldn't take it in a sense, especially if you're, at the age where you can afford it and whatnot. But supplements are a tricky one because, like, at the end of the day, they're just the supplement your training and exercise. So I think so many people get caught up in, I need to have a protein shake, or I need to have a pre-workout, or I need to have BCAAs. But like you don't need to worry about protein. The amount of messages that reach out to me and go, will I make progress if I don't have a protein shake after the gym, or if I don't have whey protein? They're the type of people that need to be focusing on the fundamentals. They need to be focusing on developing the nutritional aspects that are going to lead to long-term progress, instead of trying to supplement out of a bad diet. So supplements are just like an extremely practical and useful and usually tasty way to help progress along. But if their nutritional and training principles aren't well, in a good state, then it's not really going to do anything. And that's what I like to preach. It's just a supplement to good nutrition and exercise.
It's like a multivitamin, for example. A multivitamin isn't going to change a crap diet. Like, it's not going to make up for the vegetables you're missing. Like your greens powder makes up for the no vegetables you eat during the day.
Fixed. Yeah, I've those multivitamins. They're pretty good, but they're not gonna change the world, are they?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Like protein, it's good, but it's not necessary. If you're getting your adequate protein macro from whole foods, then you don't actually need it. I'd say creatine is just like, if that's the only supplement you're gonna get, creatine. The other ones are like little 1%ers you can add in as well. But creatine, especially for the vegans nowadays, they're not getting any creatine from their normal diet. Creatine is essential.
You want to be pump that creatine.
Extremely affordable as well. But
Yeah.
it's like $20 for a kilo or something.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. No, we've been pumping the creatines for a while now.
Now, having lots of young followers, they're faced with this dilemma. Alcohol comes into play, partying comes into play. Your mates are kind of peer pressuring you into doing certain things. We want to touch on kind of partying and drinking and your standpoint on it.
Yeah, it's a very tricky topic because, like you said, there's a lot of peer pressure out there for young individuals to indulge, especially if you're in high school. Like, it's very tough to be like, I'm going to go to a party and just not drink, or it's almost like ostracizing yourself in a sense. If you've been like, I'm just not going to go to a party, I'm not going to drink. But in saying that, it's very important to realize that it's probably one of the most detrimental things that you can do for your progress. So if you do it, just know that that's a sacrifice. And the more you drink, in terms of amount, the worse it's going to be, obviously, just with a hangover. Obviously, the physiological downsides as well. But for the most part, balance is fine. Balance is fine.
Yeah.
So realize how far you need to go. What's your actual goal? And then work backwards from there. Like, can I go out and drink 5 vodka lime sodas this weekend? Or is that really going to mess up what I'm trying to do? So if you're okay with taking the little step back and it's still fine for you to hit your goals, by all means. But no, if your goals are extreme, you need to take pretty extreme actions in order to do that. And that might require completely eliminating alcohol for a second.
I think that's a great way to put it, because if you're trying to be Chris Bumstead, mate, you shouldn't be worrying about if you can drink alcohol or not. It's just a no-brainer. You can't have it. Whereas if you want to be beach lean and you want a good physique, good Instagram physique, I think moderation is key. Obviously, if you're going out drinking 3 times a week, you're going to be significantly inhibiting your progress. But yeah, as we do know, like physiologically, it just dictates so many things in a negative way towards your progress that you do need to know that each time you drink, it is a huge sacrifice. So yeah, I think like if you are to put numbers on it, like maybe like no more than twice a month, I'd say. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a big one for us. Oh well, I've noticed like if I make a TikTok or whatever, and it's like having a beer on the weekend or something like that, and I get a few Americans. Well, you're never going to become an IFBB pro if you drink. It's like, mate, I don't actually want to become an IFBB pro, believe it or not. So it does depend on your goals. And as you said, extreme goals require extreme measures. But yeah, remembering that everyone has different goals, and if you want to drink once a month, if you don't want to drink at all, then that's fine as well. Do you currently, like, obviously we're in lockdown and stuff, but will you go out, or will you go out and drink, or is it just not what you do?
Not really, not anymore. Like I definitely did. Like I might go out once a month. I just like, even removing alcohol aside, like I just never enjoy it as much as I think I am, in a sense.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, all right, I might as well utilize this time for more practical things. And so going out for me might, I'll try to set up a movie, or I'll try go bowling, or do something that's a little less hectic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I might drink like once every now and then, just a couple glasses of wine at a dinner. Right now in lockdown, I've just been going over my girlfriend's. So we might have like a glass of red wine. That's about it. But I think a high majority of people should go like at least for a little bit. Go for like a month of just not drinking a thing and just seeing how you feel. Because I found that the times when I felt my best was when I was drinking like maybe once every like 6 months.
Yeah.
And it was just it was just incredible. Like you feel amazing. It's like a natural high almost.
Yeah, so we're probably not going to find Fraser at Revs at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, it turns out.
Look elsewhere, I'd say.
Look elsewhere, mate. Maybe somewhere else. No, that's...
Yeah, maybe Cloud9.
Yeah, maybe Cloud. Watch out.
In the previous podcast, we've been fantasizing about travel just because we've been missing it so much. It sounds like you've done a fair amount of travel, going all the way to Africa. That'd be a sick experience. I'd love to do some safari and things like that there. Have you... Like, what are your favorite places to travel? Worst places you've traveled? Where do you want to travel in the future?
Yeah, best place I've ever traveled is definitely Africa. So I did a decent trip. It was started off in South Africa, Cape Town, then went up to Botswana and Zambia and Namibia. No, Nigeria. It was one of them.
Namibia.
They're all blended into one. It was a while ago anyway. But Botswana was definitely an absolute highlight. If you do go, you need to go to Chobe River and do the safaris there. You see just like, I was just shocked at the amount of elephants were there. Like there was like, we're in a car and there's like 10,000 elephants all within like a kilometer distance of like your view, just all around. And you're just like, why is there so many freaking elephants out here? And then you see rhinos, you see things you just never see. Which like, I think a lot of people gear towards Europe because it's fun. You're young, you want the sun, you want to have a couple of drinks, and it's pretty great. It's pretty phenomenal. But I think a lot of people sleep on Africa, probably because it's just more dangerous and risky and harder to get over there.
Yeah.
But I can't say there's a worst place I've ever traveled to. Like I'd have to be picking out like the worst of the best in a sense.
Yeah.
I really, really like Oriental countries like Japan, China.
Yeah.
I haven't been to too much of Europe, just England. Yeah, I'd say if there's 2 countries you got to get to, it's Botswana and Japan, because Japan's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You guys traveled much?
Are you much of a snowboarder? You've been to Japan and whatnot, or?
I've snowboarded once and I fell on my ass like 20 million times. I can ski, but I really want to get into it. It's just it's such a.
I've heard Japan and Canada have the best snow, so those are two countries I definitely want to hit up in the winter.
You're not a skier.
I'm a snowboarder.
Oh, please.
Yeah, mate.
He's been once on a school trip.
Oh,
watch out.
Yeah. You'll be the one in your ass. I'll be the one carving it up.
Mate, I'm doing plyometrics. My balance is incredible. We do a little bit of traveling, but haven't in a while, and we plan to, and we want to do a lot of Australia, I think. WA is right on the cards. We're going there, aren't we, Gab?
Yeah. I think Sri Lanka is the best country I've been to, though.
Yeah.
Safari there was sick. You get the smaller elephants. You get the what are they? The Asian elephants. Whereas in Africa, you get the African elephants. They've got much bigger ears, bigger tusks. They're about twice as tall. They've been on their creatine grind and whatnot.
Yep, so they're big boys. Now, we are on a podcast. Do you listen to any podcasts, and what podcasts do you listen to?
I listen to a few, to be honest. Cardio sessions and this and that, car drives.
Mm-hmm.
JRE, Joe Rogan Experience is a big one. Really depends on the guest though. Like I'm not listening too much for Joe. Like sometimes you'll bring on a sex pathologist and I'm like, I'm just going to skip this one.
Give that one a miss.
Those are the ones I'm listening to.
Besides that, I listen to a few comedy ones just to like unwind at the end of the day. Another one, probably Jordan Peterson. Every now and then he'll put out a really, really good one, very insightful. That's probably about it, man. I stick towards those few. What are you guys into? What inspired you to get started with this?
Like Joe Rogan's been a big one for us. I listen to a lot of just footy ones and stuff as well. Also Theo Von, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a comedian. I listen to him before bed, and it's a huge wind down, and he's hilarious.
You listen to his monologues or interviews?
Both. Yeah.
Sometimes he just goes off for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, I love him talking about his country town and stuff. Like he's like where he's from, and it's like the crazy. Like he was in a cult and hectic. It's good to. I'm like in tears before bed laughing. But yeah, I think podcasts are really the way of the future. We were saying in an interview the other day that it's our social media and our TikTok. We kind of have to. We don't paint ourselves to be someone, but we do have a certain kind of role to play in doing that. Whereas on a podcast, we can really be ourselves. Gab and I do podcasts together where it's just him and I, and we literally almost use it as therapy. Like we just talk for 30 minutes to an hour. I really think podcasts are the way of the future. Yeah,
it's a good way almost to reflect on the week. But a good podcast I've recently discovered is called the Huberman Lab. I think it's kind of new, only 30 episodes or so, but the guy is so smart. It almost gets too scientific at points, but he's had some amazing guests on, and it's just knowledge packed. I feel like I'm in a uni lecture, but it's actually more captivating.
Yeah, I listened to his one on ADHD recently.
Yeah.
Pretty good. But yeah, as you said, you got to really tune in.
Yeah, you got to switch on.
All the motor neurons and whatnot, or all the neural chemistry, and you're just like.
The best one I listened to recently was with Dr. Matthew Walker. He's he's the sickest bloke. He's got a really cool. Yeah. So have you listened to the Joe Rogan one?
Yeah. I've listened to a few of you. I think I've listened to his and one other one that he's been on.
Yeah. And he's just had a Huberman Lab one as well, or 2 months ago. And that's pretty unreal. It goes into way more depth, way more sciencey. And yeah, it's just kind of, because I remember Matthew Walker came out with if you don't sleep this much, you're going to die. Whereas now he's kind of reeled it back a little bit. He's I didn't mean to be so kind of harsh, and he's got a different kind of tone now. So it's interesting, and it's a lot more sciencey, and I love it. But we've also seen on your Instagram stories, you love your books. I'm not much of a reader. You've been getting into it recently.
Can't read.
Talk us on what you can't even speak
words.
Now.
You can't speak
words.
or read.
That's why I can't read. But anyway, what kind of books do you like? Favorites, and do you read a lot?
Yeah, I read a decent amount. I'll try read every single day. So probably about 30 to 60 minutes in the morning. Books I really like. I like things that are going to expand my knowledge, whether that be to do with health and fitness, whether it be to do with finances, or whether it be a big popular one of mine is just human psychology or behavioral psychology. So any that tie into that. And a few of my favorites are ones that note back to real life scenarios, whether it be in historical reference to times in the Renaissance. But I think anyone looking to get started with books, it's always hard. Try and find ones that are quite exciting and like written in a way that keeps you engaged. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is a big one like that.
Yeah.
You just read it and it flows. He's pretty funny.
Okay.
I'm reading one at the moment called Irresistible. Sorry, it's a sequel. I think it's called Irresistible. So pretty much it's about social media, addiction and pools, and how to kind of refocus on the things that really matter. So I've just started that one, probably about 40 pages.
Irresistible, was it?
I believe it's Irresistible. I have to double check. It's a sequel to another one.
Yeah, it sounds good.
I feel like the books thing, it's a hard commitment for some, especially if you haven't been reading. Like, I never used to enjoy reading. But I started a book called The Man's Search for Meaning. You might have heard of it. Yeah, it's a cracker, and it's just good for perspective, especially through COVID. I'm not about to read every morning, but yeah, now and then I'll pick it up and get a bit of perspective.
Yeah, I like those. I think I bought like 5 or so books similar to that last year when COVID started.
Yeah,
just to kind of be like, well, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad, mate. Yeah, no, we're doing all right. We've got a roof and running water, so pretty essential. So stress, social media. Do you do any form of kind of like meditation to get through, or like is there a bit of a process in the morning that you follow?
Yeah, I've definitely been slacking on it recently, but I'll normally do about 5 to 10 minutes of meditation. It's normally guided. And then if I don't do that, I'll kind of similar to what you guys do with the podcast, but I'll do it in a journaling form. So I'll just journal. And that's kind of like a good therapeutic process for that. I think it's a good way to put it is like, if I'm thinking too much, I got to journal. If I'm too curious, I'm not thinking enough, I got to read. So it's one or the other I'll push more in towards.
Just like putting either form is kind of text on a page. I like it.
You're just putting your brain off, taking it off your shoulders. I've found, writing really helps as well.
Yeah, and our coach Josh is a big fan of the journal, writing things down. And
the goat.
You found quite
Is that Bailey?
Yeah, Josh Balia.
The big man.
Balia, that's it. Yeah, the big fella.
Big fella.
Training day, good vibes. I'm keen to get back to training day. It's been way too long.
Now, you meditate kind of in the sauna, Gab.
Yeah, I love the sauna. Do you like the sauna, or are you a frequent sauna user, Fraser?
I love the sauna, man. I just don't have enough access to one.
Yeah,
I'd love to do like a daily Joe Rogan sauna.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I've got one at my parents' house. It's pretty awesome.
Incredible.
So crank it up to like 100 degrees and just like sweat your eyeballs out.
Yeah. How long do you go for?
It depends. Like when I'm really in a rhythm, pretty hydrated, I go for like 2 20-minute bouts at like 90 to 100 degrees. So pretty hot. And then like freezing cold shower in between and after. Crank some Tame Impala, just like Vibe City to be pretty hectic experience. Or like just like 3 10-minute sessions. What about you?
I don't really do it. I have not gotten too far into it.
Yeah.
But I'd love to, man. I know Training Day's got an infrared one.
Yeah.
Just might be hard to like work out a 30-minute 100-degree session there.
Yeah.
Jump out naked and get in the cold showers or something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. They are. What's it called? The
thermostat. Mess with the thermostat. Put a bit of a cold towel on it.
Put the
it'll
like
crank
toilet
it up.
paper. Put it in water. Put it on the thermostat, and you trick it into thinking it's colder, so it'll heat
We
it
don't
up more.
actually recommend this.
No, we do, but off the record.
Off the record.
But the traditional ones, you can just chuck the water on and get it to like a really high heat. So it's pretty hectic.
Pretty essential. Anyway, that is pretty much it for the podcast. Do you have anything else?
Not from me, but Fraser, is there any kind of last points you want to mention or anything like that?
No, I'll just say that this has been pretty damn great, guys, and phenomenal job. 36 was it? Episodes in?
Yep, 36.
It's amazing, man. Keep it pumping, man. You guys are doing great.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.